What's going on, boys? Welcome back to the channel. First off, I want to start by saying, yes, this is part 2 of can we fix our blown up Accord. Second of all, I just want to say, let me know what you guys think of the camera quality in this video, because we actually picked up a new camera for the first time in a long time. So we can do 4K now, which has been a big thing for me. I'm a big camera guy and I'm really pumped that we can record in 4K. So let me know if it's better. Let me know if it's worse. I can still use my wireless mic. So just let me know in the comments below. Before we get into today's video, I just wanted to preface that. But we got most of it ripped down. Let's go over what we did in last week's video. And if you haven't checked out last week's video, there's gonna be a card up here. You should watch it so you can figure out where we're at here. But I don't wanna waste any time. I got a big box of parts in the mail right here. Radiator hoses, timing belt kit. I mean, the whole 9. So let's dig through here, see what we got, and start wrenching on this car. I think tonight we're gonna be able to actually get a new timing belt, balance shaft belt, and tensioner on this thing. A little bit nervous, but it'll be fine. Here we go. I mean, we built this whole thing, right? How hard can it be? It ain't that bad. All right, let's grab our big box of goodies. We were able to hit rock auto right before the tariffs kicked in, so there you go. Anyways, lower rad hose, because, well, when this thing actually hit the bed on us, these hoses are so, you can hear them crack. They're so old and dry rotted. I'm not gonna get around to installing these hoses tonight. However, if we dig a little deeper, this is what I'm wanting to tackle tonight. Continental water pump, timing belt, and balance shaft belt kit. Now, this is the exact same kit minus the balance shaft, because it doesn't have one, but that I did on our B18B over there. Granted, no balance shaft, not in the car, on an engine stand. Was pretty damn easy. I will say, I hope this belt isn't the same, because it is a Continental belt, but when we put that belt on the B18, God, it was hard to get on. It was so bloody tight. But I am hoping this one's a little easier, because it is a single cam as well. Yes, it has a balance shaft, but it only has one cam. Big thing I just remembered, I'm gonna have to find some sort of 6mm something or other to keep that rear balance shaft locked in place. But I've done enough talking. Let's go ahead, let's start tearing into this thing. So just to recap what we got done last time at the shop regarding all this, we've got our cruise control out of the way and disconnected. We have our power steering pump still connected to the lines, but disconnected. We have our alternator obviously disconnected. Now what we have to do is take the dipstick off, pull the plug wires out, pull the valve cover off, take this engine mount off, put a jack under the engine with a piece of wood to hold it up and level. Then we can go ahead and take off the top cover, the lower cover, take out the bolt in the back of the engine back here, slide a pin in there to keep the balance shaft locked at place after we set it at top dead center, of course. Get a little paint marker and just mark everything to be 110% sure nothing has moved. And then we can take off the tensioner, pop both belts off, pop water pump off, slap water pump on, tensioner, both the new belts, tension it, and then all should be well. Fingers crossed, here's to hoping. First order of business, this valve cover coming off, same with the spark plug wires. Then we're gonna start tackling the covers and the engine mount situation, and we should be good to go to finally tackle this belt and this damn water pump that led us to all this work in the first place. Let's get it going. Oh. All right, well, first casualty. I literally just went to go lightly pull this up and it snapped clean off. Oh, what a way to start the freaking night, dude. No way, this thing should just pop off with ease. I hardly touched it. I grabbed it from here and I was just trying to like get my hand on it to move my fingers over here and it just snapped. Like I literally breathed on it and it snapped. Great. Anyways, let's get this valve cover off. Alrighty guys, so valve cover is off, looking good there, except I can't freaking believe the PCV broke. Are you kidding me? Next thing I'm gonna do, I don't think I'm gonna attack these covers until I get this mount out of the way. So I guess really the next course of action is to grab our jack, bring it over here, slide it under the oil pan with a piece of wood, get a little bit of tension on it, just hold it there. Zip that off, zip a couple of these off, zip zap, do your thing, you know what I'm saying? And that should come right off. Then it looks like we can probably attack the dipstick upper lower cover. And what do you know, dude, Bob's your uncle. Let's get it going. All right, boys, I am pulling out the last bolt as we speak for the rear cover. So I've got the valve cover off, top cover, dipstick out, last nut or bolt, and our cover can come off. However, it's gonna be stuck in there until I get this other engine mount off. But what's baffling my mind here is that this timing belt and this balance shaft belt are brand new. Brand new. Sorry if it's flickering too, by the way. I have my light, the only one that I can hang from my hood, and it flickers. It's not even just the camera, like it flickers on my eyes too, but I need light down here, so I'm sorry, boys, for the flickering light. But this is a brand freaking new Continental timing belt and balance shaft pump that I'm putting on. Don't know if the water pump is a Continental pump as well. Obviously it's not a Continental pump, but one that come in the Continental kit or a Honda OEM one. It is definitely a water pump that's blown because it's soaking wet back here. I just don't know how I'm gonna get this cover out. So I'm gonna try and take this engine mount bracket off, and then hopefully I can pull the cover up and out because it's wedged in there. I don't think it's gonna come down the bottom. There's like torsion bars on this too that's blocking it from coming out the bottom. So I'm gonna try, it's down far enough now that I can try and take off the engine mount bracket and then pull the cover up the top. But what a pain. It's also not at top dead center. I didn't think it was gonna be, but it isn't. So there's that. I'll check the tension and everything, but yeah, let's get another time lapse going. Let's get this bracket off. Let's get this cover out. And then let's you and me take a closer look at all this goodness.
2,000 years later.
Not gonna lie, guys, taking this engine mount bracket off, aside from the crank pulley, is the hardest part of this job. There's no room in here. These things are so bloody tight. Like, they're so tight my electric ratchet can't even break them loose or run them off. I'm having to go in by hand. The only thing that'll fit is my 3/8 drive. You gotta put so much pressure just to break it loose. I've bashed the hell out of my hand so much just trying to get this off. This is the worst part of this by a long shot, dude. And now this won't even fit in there because it's too far backed off. I got one more bolt in this thing to take off. This sucks. I just can't believe how much of a pain in the ass it was to take this off. Just get the hell out of there. Holy moly, guys. Taking this thing off was literally the worst. Now that this freaking pile of is out, I can finally reach down here. I should be able to take the cover off. Does it actually go out the bottom this whole time? All right, guys, so let's take a peek here. It's gonna be real hard for you guys to see, but if I just kind of hold you upside down, there's our markings there. So this blue one is lined up with the side of the head there. This up is going straight up, parallel with the engine. And then our mark over here is also parallel with the head. Down here, it's gonna be hard for you guys to see, but there's a mark on top of here that lines up right there. So that's all good. If we go down here, you can see that up mark on the crank is lined up with the one right above it on the block. And then to be honest, there's a little dimple right there on the rear balance shaft, but I don't know where the hell that's supposed to line up to. I am gonna take the bolt out of the back and just shove like a 6mm in there. And hopefully that works. That's what I'm gonna go try and do right now. So let's get to it.
Alrighty, boys. Well, I found a bolt that works. Do I know what size it is? Not a freaking chance. But that is it right there. Super, super skinny. Yeah, I don't know what size it is, but it works. Apparently a 6x100mm bolt, or ChatGPT says a 6mm drill bit, but it goes in really far, and that has to be money. So at this point, we go back up there, we crank off the tensioners, and hope and pray.
Here goes the big job. I am going to undo both the bolts on the tensioner, take the springs off, and take the belts off. Then it's time to remove the water pump and reinstall the new one. Ooh, wish me luck. I did check the part numbers. We got a Continental 14400 PTO 004 187. Same belt going on. This one is older because the new one's branded a little bit differently and stuff, but it's still a good belt. Enough rambling. I'm kind of putting this off at this point because this is where things get a little stressful, but let's take the tensioners off. Let's get this shit out and let's get the new stuff on. Bingo, bango, bongo. Let's go. All right, boys, and here the hell we are. So, timing belt, balance shaft belt, out. I tried to show you guys piece by piece as we went, but here's the timing belt. I already showed you the balance shaft belt. It doesn't look like this cam gear is going to move. It's quite on there. The front balance shaft definitely moves very freely, but the markings keep it lined up. The rear balance shaft did move. But I was able to just kind of hold the bolt in there with my finger, wiggle it back and forth until the bolt dropped in. So that is perfect. Just be mindful, if you do wiggle it back and forth, the bolt will probably back itself off. So keep that in mind. Now that we have that taken care of, but now we can go ahead and take off the water pump itself. Once that is off, we can slap the new one in, clean up the surfaces, and put the new belts on. There goes all the coolant that was in my engine. Holy shit. We thought the system ran dry. We were very, very wrong. And also, by no means is this a tutorial. I mean, I hardly know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just here doing it, boys. Yeah, so we just leaked out the equivalent of the Atlantic Ocean on my floor. Last bolt, baby. All right, and old water pump that caused all this havoc is out. There we have it. Can we see where it failed? To be honest, no. I'm hoping this is even it. This water pump looks actually really nice, which I hate to say. I'm trying to look for any rips and tears in the O-ring. but I am coming up short. There's nothing else that can leak out coolant right there though, except for this water pump. It is a GME water pump, trash. Our new one is a NPW made in Japan. So you know that sucker's dialed. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead, cap it here. I'm gonna start installing everything, so I'll just run you guys down before I do it because I'm running out of battery. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the water pump on with the new seal after I clean out the surface and let it finish draining. Once that's done, I'm gonna make sure everything's aligned. Like this front balance shaft is moved already, it's not aligned. The one on the rear balance shaft is still stuck in place. The crank did move a little bit, so I put the little marking on the marking, and then the cam, since the spark plugs are in, hasn't moved at all. I've even grabbed it with my hands and tried to run it back and forth. Obviously I'm going to spin it over by hand, so at that point I'll feel if a piston hits a valve and the engine doesn't spin over. Obviously we know we're going to need to retime it at that point, but I think we're going to be all good. I don't think we're going to need to retime anything. And as far as all this goes, water pump, put the tensioners back on, put the timing belt back on, put the balance shaft pulley back on, and then tension it all up. So let's get started on doing that because I want to get the hell out of here. I'm starving, I'm tired. And yeah, boys, water pump's pretty simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts. All right, guys, so water pump is in, all 5 bolts are tightened down. Now let's go ahead, get the new tensioners on, leave them loose, put on the timing belt. Once the timing belt's on, then we can put on the balance shaft pulley that sits right behind the crank pulley. Put that on, tension both belts, snug them up. We're looking good. Let's just show you what we've got so far. I mean, it's not much to see. Check out the water pump. And there she is. Brand new water pump, good to go. Gaskets on there. I did not use any RTV. I just used the standard rubber gasket that goes around it. I was reading online. Some people say use RTV. Some people say don't use RTV. Me personally, I was thinking about it. I went to go grab my RTV and the whole thing's dried out. So I don't have any anyways, did more research, and a lot of people said, no, you don't need to with that O-ring type gasket. It should be more than fine. Plus this sucker is made in Japan. Who knows where that junker I took out is made from, but it ain't Japan. This one is gonna be golden. Let's go ahead. Let's get tensioner 1, tensioner 2. These sit on top of each other. So this is the one for the timing belt. Spring goes in the little nipple right there. This one sits literally over top of it. That raised lip right there sits over top of it. And then it's got a key on this side. You can see right here is flat. That's where this comes into play and sits in there and holds tension for the balance shaft. So double tensioner, but they overlap and sit on top of each other. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and install these on camera. There's not much to see aside from me struggling to put a belt on. I'm gonna pick it back up once these belts are on. Timing belt is on now. Let's check it out. There we go. We're still up. This mark here, level with the head. Down here, those markings are perfectly lined up. I think it's safe to say we are at top dead center and we are lined up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the balance shaft tensioner on because they use the same nut to hold them in place. Put the balance shaft belt on. Then once that is good, I'm going to put the crank bolt back in. Rotate this 3 teeth counterclockwise, 3 to 4 teeth. That should set adequate tension. Then I'm going to cinch it up and, you know, hunky dory. We should be mint. Back for day 2 on part 2. Last clip you seen was me here last night after work. We got here about, I'd say like just after 4 p.m. and we left at around 8. So a solid 4 hours getting everything in here done and dialed. We have that timing belt on. We have the balance shaft belt on. Everything appears to be tensioned. Now, what I want to do today is start the car. So I'm just gonna take my hose reel here with water, and I'm seriously just gonna fill up the radiator, fill it all the way up with water because we're gonna have to drain it anyways when we put the new hoses on. But I am very particular and I just wanna make sure that everything is good to go. So we stick the valve cover back on. We don't need power steering connected. We don't need the alternator connected. One thing I probably will have to put back on is this like triple ground strap I took off here. Went from the valve cover to right here to right there. So I'll probably just hook all that back up. Still need to buy a new PCV because that snapped off, as you guys seen. I can just drape this over here, leave the alternator out, put the battery back in, valve cover back on, fill the rat up with water just to be 100% certain. Obviously I'm not bleeding it or running it for long because there's no alternator, but I'm gonna take my coolant bleeder funnel that should be somewhere over there and fill it up, so just to make sure it is the highest point and that the water pump does actually have some sort of fluid running through it. We're gonna let it run, see how it does, make sure there's no weird vibrations, make sure nothing's crazy. After running for a few minutes and checking and verifying that there is no leaks in anything and that belt tension stayed the same, just gonna go around on every single nut and bolt I touched and just try and snug it up, make sure nothing's loose. Once that's complete, we're gonna go ahead and finally put everything back together. Don't think that's gonna happen today though, because this video is already getting quite long. Looks like there's probably gonna be a part 3 of just assembling the accessories and taking this thing for a drive. We're gonna get this thing in somewhat of a running state, although there's not gonna be an alternator, but I just wanna verify that that water pump is not going to leak any fluid. Belt tension is gonna stay the same and the thing actually runs. So a little bit nervous, can't lie. Enough talking, let's start getting this thing to a state where I'm confident in running it for a couple minutes just to verify things before we actually finally put her back together. Woo! It's been a big job, boys. Run you down what I've done so far real quick. I just went and installed the harmonic balancer down there. Everything is good. It doesn't like quite sit flush, but nothing can go back anymore. I've checked all like the clearances from up here and like everything appears to be good. I've also gone ahead and installed my funnel. Weird though, this is the first car that I've had where it's like super loose. I've literally tried every last single attachment and every single locking cap, and I can't find a combo to keep this thing steady on there. Granted, it is just water, so if it makes a mess, it's not a big deal. It'll be nice because who knows when the last time this radiator and cooling system was flushed as a whole. So just to have water going through here, obviously we're not going to let it sit in there, let it rust out, all that. It's just to verify that the water pump actually holds fluid, and while we run it, we don't want to run the water pump dry and let that brand new gasket heat up and all that good stuff, because that isn't good stuff. If that gasket goes, that's an absolute nightmare. So just basically going to take my hose, fill it up with just regular old hose water, fill it up until it stops filling, and then we'll get the valve cover back on. PCV's broken, but whatever. And everything else should be good to go. I've spanned the engine over once more. There was no resistance at all, except that there's spark plugs in it, so you can feel the resistance of the compression. I didn't hear anything hit. Belt tension to me looks good. Got about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch of deflection. Balance shaft belt is a little bit looser, but it doesn't need to be overly tight. Alternator's out of the way, power steering's out of the way, cruise control's out of the way. I don't know if the cruise control needs to be all hooked up for the engine to run. I don't believe so, but I also will have to do the triple ground piece once I get the valve cover back on, which is what I'm gonna do now. All right, guys, exciting moment. Let's run through what I've got done, and I think aside from the battery, we're about to start this puppy up. So starting over here on the timing side, harmonic balancer is back in place. Dipstick is on, 1, 2, 3, ground wire is on, 1, 2, 3, 4, valve cover, bolts are back on, 1, 2, 3, 4 spark plug wires. This one right here is filled with oil and doesn't like to sit down. I don't know why, because I just replaced the valve cover gasket and the spark tube seals and cleaned out the holes and got new spark plugs, and there's so much oil in there. Probably from a clogged PCV, so maybe it's a good thing this broke, foreshadowing we needed to replace it anyways. I will replace that. Power steering is still off to the side. Alternator's sitting over there. Cruise control's over there. I don't know if this vacuum actuated cruise control and the electronic plug or the alternator wiring with the ground is really going to affect anything as far as starting goes, but we're gonna find out. Radiator is filled up with water. Tried to bleed it like as best as possible. Got a jug right here on standby for when that water pump starts spinning, it's gonna suck it down. This will be good too, like I said, to just flush out this rad. Let's go ahead, put the battery in. Fuses are already in place. Key is there. Open the garage door. Hope and pray, baby. This is it, the big moment. The Accord is going to turn back on with a new water pump, balance shaft belt, timing belt, and soon to have upper and lower rad hoses, if this all goes well. So I'm a little bit nervous, I can't lie. I'm a little bit nervous, boys, but hey, I've spanned the engine over like 27 times by hand, and there's no resistance except for the compression because the spark plugs is in there. I don't hear any metal on metal. I don't feel anything hitting, nothing stopping it. We should be good. One thing, I won't lie, I did forget to do when we were timing it is the flex plate has an inspection hole literally right here. And I never really looked at that, but I spanned it over a bunch, and both balance shafts, crank and cam line up. So I have to assume it's good. Knock on wood for me, boys. Cross your fingers. Let's chuck this battery in. Let's fire this puppy up. Probably from the engine being held up. Holy shit, boys. Oh my God, boys, the engine's running smooth. Everything good down there? Okay. PCV. Good news, bad news situation. It's leaking oil. So the water pump was blown because when I went to go take the rad cap off, when I found out this happened, there was like no coolant to be seen. So the water pump was going, but what we're running into now, I don't know if you guys can see that well. That balance shaft has got a lot of oil on it. And then if we come down here, as we can see, oil and more oil. So our balance shaft seals are shot. I mean, just look at all that. Water pump looks good. Not what I want to see after I get done a job of this size. It looks like both the front and rear balance shaft seals are leaking, which means timing belt can stay on so the engine can stay in time. Balance shaft has to come back apart now that the engine's nice and hot, and those seals are gonna have to get replaced. Obviously, I'm not doing that today, so there will 100% be a part 3 to this video. Regardless, we retime the engine. Timing belt, balance shaft, water pump, flawless work. Now I have to go ahead and tackle the front and rear balance shaft seals. Once that's done, everything hopefully should be a-okay. I'm gonna leave the water in the system. I'm not gonna drain it out. There's no point to, because we're gonna need to do a few more checks and see, but that is 100% oil dripping out, and it looks like it's pulling off the coolant that was left over from when the water pump blew. I can't see any leakage coming from the water pump itself. Everything looks good in the neighborhood there. Fingers crossed. We can only hope. I can't fully see every piece and corner of the water pump, but to me, it definitely looks like the front and rear balance shaft seals are freaking shot. That sucks, but might as well do it now while the engine's already in this state. All I have to do is pop off the valve cover, take the battery back out, take the balance shaft belt off and the harmonic balancer, and attack those seals Definitely a bummer. It is a common issue on these F-Series to have those balance shaft seals shit the bed. Like I said, definitely a bummer. I know I'm a little bit bummed out right now, boys, but we got so far, but now, you know, 1 step ahead, 2 steps back type of deal. So gonna have to go ahead, take that all apart. Thank God I don't have to retime the engine. It's just the balance shafts we have to worry about, which really isn't that big of a deal. But there you have it, boys. We installed everything. Everything checks out, but now we got 2 more seals to replace. So until next week, when we go ahead and tackle these seals, I will catch you guys then, and I hope to see you there. If you're interested in this content or you're interested in my boosted Civic, go ahead, drop a subscribe, like, comment, and turn those notification bells off so you don't miss another upload. We upload multiple shorts a week, 1 every other day, and 1 long form video a week. Also, be sure to check out the Instagram and TikTok, also at Brash Garage. Everything's linked in my link tree. Till next time, baby, peace out.